Is it time the BBC reviewed its licence policy, as suggested by Noel Edmonds this week?
Noel Edmonds this week said the BBC is sleepwalking into a disaster. The licence fee is no longer appropriate, and it should be got rid of. And he wants to buy the BBC. I don't know where he's going to get the money for that from. But anyway, Dominic Raab, licence fee,
I think
100 and whatever it is, £45?
I think with the move towards taking more of those services online, I think there's an inherent problem. And I think inevitably, over the long term, they're going to have to move to a subscription model. I think the key thing for me would be that with the Beeb, you still have a public subsidy to fill that that sort of quality television and radio gap that otherwise you wouldn't get in the marketplace. I still think there's a real need for that and an important case for protecting it. But the BBC, just like everyone else, has got to move with the times. How quickly it will happen, how contentious it will be, I'm not sure. But I think it's almost inevitable.
OK. You sit up there.
I work abroad and I watch, occasionally, BBC World Service. And there is advertising on that station. Toshiba, Qatar Airways, to name just two. If the BBC isn't supposed to advertise, why is it advertising on its World Service?
Well, it doesn't go to the licence payer, that's why.
Oh.
That's... they're allowed to flog the product
but it's the
outside.
BBC.
Yeah, it is the BBC. Jill Kirby, do you think the licence fee should end?
Yes, I do. I think we should certainly move potentially to a subscription model. I think we should move to a very much slimmed-down version of the BBC, keeping question time, obviously. Very necessary.
You can all applaud this. Very significant point. Thank you.
But when you just look at the things that only the BBC can do, and you look at all the stuff the BBC does do, much of which it could do commercially, and indeed in some cases does, but the licence fee payer doesn't see much of that. You look at all the things the BBC is doing which could easily be on commercial TV, and there's no justification for the BBC providing them as a niche. I would think that everybody would get much better value if we moved to a subscription model, and people could download what they want to watch or watch when they want to watch, possibly pay as you go. There are a lot of people paying far too much for the amount of TV they consume. It's a big imposition on a family budget. Talk about people going to food banks, but you think how much they're forking out for the BBC.
Lot cheaper than watching Sky.
Yeah, OK, but if Sky can get away with charging what it does, then I'm sure the BBC could.
All right, Val.
That's another good argument for a subscription model, isn't it?
OK. Val?
I'm a bit disturbed to find myself agreeing with Dominic. In broad terms, I think there are many ways in which we should pay for what we consume, and the whole issue of iPlayer, watching again, people having and putting a subscription model in that would allow people to watch overseas when they can't watch stuff. But I do think there needs to be some kind of safeguarding the core functions of public service broadcasting, which a commercial broadcaster will not do. There isn't a single commercial broadcaster in this country, or I think pretty much anywhere else, who does the kind of things at the core of what the BBC does in terms of its public service broadcasting.
To cut to the chase, do you think everybody who has a television set should still, after this, in this next period when the charter comes up, still be compelled to pay a sum of money to the BBC to keep it going, or risk being taken to court?
I think there needs to be another way of doing it, and I think it may well be that it comes out of general taxation, so that everybody who consumes it, and however we consume it, put something into it.
We have 60 seconds left for your answers.
To Noel Edmonds, I'd say no deal. I think that we need to... I think the BBC is one of the jewels in the crown. I think the licence fee is the right way to pay for it, sharing the cost across the entire population of this country to ensure that we can have high-quality public service broadcasting. So I wouldn't scrap the licence fee, I'd keep it, and I'd make sure that the next charter protects the independence of the BBC.
OK, and you have 30 seconds.
Thank you.
For your part.
Well, here's a note of unity to end the programme. I absolutely agree with what Danny just said. You know, we're quite good in this country, aren't we, at running down the things that are best about it, the National Health Service, and I would add the BBC. It's renowned around the world, and we miss it terribly when it's gone. It's not just about what you pay and what you get. The BBC helps build the kind of society we are, where we can have debates like this, where we can have news that isn't got a commercial slant on it. It's really, really important to our democracy. And, David, your job's safe with us.
Your presence on the panel is safe too, because you did that in 30 seconds, and we have to...